And welcome back to Roll Call TV. Still with me for this heated debate is Romm, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and Marc Morano, former communications director for the Republicans on the Senate Environmental Committee. Gentlemen, let me put this up on the screen because I think this is important, at least to put some stuff into context. Lisa Jackson, who is the new EPA administrator, said this in Aspen a couple of days ago. She said, with the Obama plan, we're going to get a threefer. I'm quoting her. We're going to put people back on the job. We're going to help clean up the environment. We're going to provide more security to the U.S. And presumably, I think what she means by that is that we're going to have less dependence on foreign oil, specifically from the Middle East and from Venezuela. Marc Morano, let me go to you. And Joe, I do want to get back to you so you can respond back to what Marc had said a few moments ago. Can you at least agree with the Obama plan that on paper and perhaps maybe even in practice, that if in fact this gets enacted by the Congress and he signs it into law, this could be a good thing for the American economy?
Well, first of all, Obama's already killed 2 million green jobs. During the campaign, he pledged 5 million new green jobs. When he was in January this year, he suddenly revised the numbers down to 3 million. The problem with green jobs are in and of themselves a very generic, bland term, which is nothing necessarily wrong with that. The problem is the no energy policy is that we've been promoting here in Washington. We need energy, and it's great to talk about windmills. It's great to talk about solar panels. You know, you have an environmentalist led by Dianne Feinstein battling Al Gore's group out in California Mojave Desert now for windmills. They're basically saying it's the same impact as a mining industry would have out there on the desert tortoise, other endangered animals. They're talking about essentially destroying all this desert for all these windmills, which are inefficient. Carbon-based energy is one of the greatest liberators of mankind in the history of our planet. It has brought longer life expectancy, all of these things. We can't, first of all, demonize that based on unfounded fears that Joe Romm would like to promote. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with alternative technology. When I worked for Senator Inhofe, he supported the Asia-Pacific Partnership, technology sharing. The way to get off carbon-based fuels is to use technology, investment, not to do command and control, government takeover of sectors and rising energy costs on poor Americans. That's why Robert Redford was protested by black ministers recently in Utah at the Sundance Film Festival. His environmental policies are raising the cost. The policies he advocates are going to raise the cost of energy for poor people to do nothing for the climate. And that's where they basically linked Robert Redford's environmentalism to racism. This is a disproportionate impact on people of color, on poor minorities, and this is where it is, again, back to it is a moral issue, the global warming question.
Joe, before the commercial break, you were going to say something.
Well, I'll just say it now. I mean, the thing about Marc Morano and Senator Inhofe is that they just make stuff up. For instance, he just claimed that Senator Inhofe is a supporter of clean energy.
And for the benefit of our viewers,
technology
and for the benefit of our viewers, we should say that Senator Inhofe is a Republican from the state of Oklahoma.
Yeah, and just to be clear, Senator Inhofe has, in vote after vote, opposed increased funding for clean energy, and opposed any government incentive for clean energy whatsoever. And as a result, do you know who is the world leader in making solar cells, which the United States invented? It is Europe and China, and that is because of conservatives like Inhofe who have fundamentally opposed any government effort. They oppose making pollution more costly, they oppose government incentives, and they oppose any regulations whatsoever that would encourage clean energy. Let's be clear here. Wind power now generates more jobs in this country than coal mining. And wind power is the fastest growing contributor to new jobs in the entire energy industry. So there's no question that Lisa Jackson was exactly correct. If you want to create jobs in this kind of economy, you want to create green jobs. And let's also be clear about oil dependence. Thanks to decades of Republican opposition to fuel economy standards and clean energy vehicles, we imported $500 billion worth of oil last year. It's so bad that even a very conservative guy, T. Boone Pickens, says we need to go very aggressive on wind power and very aggressive on clean energy.
And that's actually a separate debate.
I didn't interrupt you. Let me just finish. So the future is clean energy. And the only way we're going to get it is if we follow President Obama's policies.
Speaking of President Obama's policies, a few days ago, the president had a press conference where he talked about his environmental plan. And let's take a listen. And Marc, I'll get you to respond.
Sure.
We know the right choice. We have known the right choice for a generation. The time has come to make that choice, to act on what we know. And that's why my budget makes a historic investment, $150 billion over 10 years in clean energy and energy efficiency, building on what we've achieved through the recovery plan.
Marc Morano, your response?
Again, I don't think the debate in Washington really is whether we invest in alternative energy. That's never really been the debate. The contentious debate is about the command and control aspects and the limitation of energy that we do have. Offshore drilling in Anwar, all sorts of our natural resources. We're facing a situation here in the U.S. with the ban on new coal plants based on, again, unfounded global warming fears, of facing potential California-style rolling blackouts. We're not producing the energy that we need right now. The investments in wind and solar aren't paying back in terms of energy that you would necessarily hope. So it's a question of we need to get more energy, and we need to have a sound debate, not based on hysteria. I mean, this is Joe Romm, who actually linked and raised the question of whether the bridge collapse in Minneapolis was was caused by global warming. I mean, that's the kind of level of fringe science that he's promoting. He actually asked that question. So we need to have, first of all, get rid of the hysteria, have a sound debate. And I don't think this, again, Senator Inhofe supported the Asia-Pacific Partnership, which was about technology sharing and new development in energy policy.
We got about 35 seconds left, 40 seconons left. I'll let you have the last word, Joe.
Yeah, well, I'm debating a guy who launched the smear against John Kerry's Swift boat, and then he went after Murtha for his winning medals.
Congressman Murtha from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so this guy is very fringe. Let's just be clear here. Republicans oppose investment in clean energy. He tries to claim that they don't. They have continually opposed it. And even the Bush administration released report after report saying on our current greenhouse gas emissions path, we are going to turn the Southwest into a desert in 50 years.
Based on unproven computer models, which the UN says aren't accurate, and the top forecasting experts
I did not interrupt you. He said I would get the last word. I know that's hard for you to accept. You got the first word, I get the last word. Again, you see how he operates. He makes stuff up. He tries to demonize people. I try to stick to the science here.
And that's the last word, unfortunately. Marc Morano, who was the former communications director for the Republicans on the Environmental Senate Committee, and Joe Romm, a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Gentlemen, thank you very much for a very heated debate. Have to have you back. And coming up next,
thank you.
Get that on camera. Coming up next, we'll find out the latest scoop on the personalities of Capitol Hill, including why the comedian Stephen Colbert is at the center of a high-level congressional debate. Right after the break. Keeping it through my tongue. Time now for our Heard on the Hill segment, and joining us now is Emily Howell from Roll Call newspaper. Emily, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Robert.
So let's talk about Mr. Colbert. He is a very popular guy, isn't he?
He is. He's popular on the Hill, and now he's the center of a little controversy on the Hill. NASA had this contest to name a part of the International Space Station, and they wanted people to vote on this. And Colbert led this big campaign to have this space station, or the part of it, named after him. So he actually won. He got enough people to write in, and he won. And NASA is now indicating that they might not name it after Colbert. They might name it one of their approved names, which was the second runner-up. So Congress, of course, weighs in on this. Chaka Fattah, congressman from New York, says, you know what? Pennsylvania says, you know what? Let the people's voice stand. Let's have it named Colbert. And actually, a couple other members of Congress weighed in on the other side, saying, like, let NASA name it whatever it wants. You know, so Gabrielle Giffords, who is chair of the subcommittee that oversees NASA, also her husband's a astronaut, so you'd think she'd know. She says go with NASA. NASA can do what it wants, and so did Senator Bill Nelson, former astronaut himself. So they're siding with NASA in the big brouhaha.
I tell you, I'm sure the American viewer at home is saying, you know what? With my mortgage debt, with credit cards, with record deficits, this is what the Congress is debating.
Yeah, but you got to have your laughs, right?
Fun. Well, speaking of laughs, let's talk about a congressman who happens to live in his office.
Yes. Jason Chaffetz is a congressman from Utah, and he decided to cut costs. He was not going to get an apartment here in Washington. He was actually just going to sleep in his office. So when he's here working, he sleeps in a little cot in his office. And this has sort of become his calling card. He's gotten famous for it. And now he started holding cot-side chats, sort of in their videos that he posts on his website, sort of taking off the fireside chat, which is the more traditional version of this. But he's sort of a meat and potatoes kind of guy. We caught up with him this week, and he said he left this big fancy Republican dinner this week, left the Republican dinner and went and had burgers and fries at Five Guys. So he's definitely cultivating this very, meat and potatoes kind of everyman image. Sleeps on his cot, eats Five Guys instead of the fancy dinner. He's sort of a man of the people.
There you have it. Well, speaking of fancy dinners, I'm sure you still like the cheesecake that I baked for you for Heard on the Hill 21.
It was delicious.
All right.
Thank you.
See you later, Emily Howell.
You bet.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to look us up at facebook.com, or you can email us at news@rollcalltv.com. You can also visit our Roll Call website at rollcalltv.com. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.